Alright, how are we doing today, our fellow Titans? Hello, hello, hello. Alright, so today we're going to be doing something a little different. But first, I am Titan the Great Dane, and today we're going to be talking about the classic video game Doom. So, Doom was released way back in the day. I would probably say, what was it, 1993? But what we're doing is that we're actually going to be watching the talk from the Game Developers Conference from the GDC, and it was Tom Romero and Tom Hall who give like a post-mortem on the making of the classic first-person shooter, talking about the challenges, their design decisions, and inspiration for making the game Doom. And yeah, so this is what we're going to be doing, and we're going to be doing a few series like this where we're going to be talking about classic games that have been reviewed at the Game Developers Conference, because it's actually the game developers and the music creators and the programmers that have actually talked about all this great stuff. So anyways, what we're going to do is that we're going to... This is the first time I've done this, and since I was playing all these retro games the last few days or so, there was a lot of interest, and I like to discuss and talk about the gaming industry and the film industry and the broadcast industry from a developer's point of view, because we're going to be creating assets and elements in Unreal Engine. And looking back at these older games, it actually gives inspiration on how well they're able to achieve all the things that they did back in the day, and how we can use their inspiration and their talent and how they're able to solve problems back then into our game creation today. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to turn down the music here at Epidemic Sound. Gotta get my mouse going here. Alright, let's turn this down. And let's get this ball rolling. Cool. Alright. And I'm gonna play around with the volume levels a bit here. So yeah.
It's been 17 years since Doom was released.
Here we go.
Kind of funny that we've never done a post-mortem anywhere on this game.
So this is at the Game Developers Conference.
But now we are here to do it, and so what we're going to do is kind of go through the development of the game on a month-by-month basis. We're actually going to start about a year before we started on Doom to kind of foreshadow some things in the future. Okay, there's a little bit of volume.
Yeah, let's increase their volume.
Okay, so we'll start in December of 1991.
Okay, so they're maxed out.
Actually, yeah. Okay, so actually, it wasn't December, was it? It was like
anyway.
It's like
as far as you know, this is December.
It's August 1991, and we moved id Software to Madison, Wisconsin,
where I went to college.
And we visited in the midsummer, and the place was great, just like that picture there. It was
awesome, lush green, everyone having fun.
So then we moved the whole company, which was only 4 people at that time, and then when we got there, you know, that's kind of what happened to us, and so we couldn't even go outside anymore. We had to kind of stay inside.
Here, I'm gonna move this around a bit so we're not
we were working on Commander Keen at that time, and during that last half of 1991, we basically saw that there was a computer called the Next computer that was created by Steve Jobs' company.
There we go.
And it looked really, really interesting. It was an amazing workstation, and we basically during December kind of finished Commander Keen, and we went on our 2-week vacation. But John Carmack didn't go on vacation. He was going to stay and program, especially if he wanted to program a Next computer. So he ordered a Next computer COD, but he didn't have a car, and it was snowing and freezing. So that's John going through the snow to the bank to get the money.
They're going to turn down the main music.
So when the guy shows up, he can pay him the $11,000, and then we finally got our Next computer. And that was in December of 1991. We started working on Wolfenstein 3D, and we really just kind of messed around with the Next. It wasn't until the summer, half a year later, we actually used the Next computer to do the hint manual for Wolfenstein and some Commander Keen brochures. So.
Yeah, it was worth a lot there for us.
But we were planning on using it later. It turned out to be a very important computer for our company. right after Wolfenstein shipped, we were contacted by a company named Imagineer, and they wanted a Super Nintendo version of Wolfenstein, and so we were very excited about getting our game on a console, and so we hired a guy to start working on a contract because we got other games that we got to make. All right, so now it's November of 1992, and we had a year previous to this, November of 1991, actually shipped our I think it was our third FPS. It was our first texture map game called Catacomb 3D, and so it shipped a year before this time. But after this point, we decided that we're going to make another FPS.
Surprisingly, to some people.
Surprisingly, Doom was actually the 5th id Software FPS. Those are the other games that we had done that were shooters.
Well, I didn't know that. That was their 5th one?
Yeah, originally Hover Tank 1 was just colored walls that you kind of drove your tank through, and at that time it was kind of a harsh, creative environment to make an environment come alive in. So I would put a green cube, and that's a tree, essentially, in my mind, you know. And Catacombs 3D actually had textures on the walls, and that gave it a lot more sense of space and a lot more fun, and you could cast your magic spells and blow things apart and stuff.
Nice.
And then the others you probably know.
Spear of Destiny is a sequel to Wolfenstein, by the way.
Spirit. Okay, we'll have to look that one up. Spirit of Destiny.
We basically start working on some of the tools for the next id FPS. I'll start working on Doom. Programmers in the audience might recognize the acronym WAD, which stands for Where's All the Data?
That's actually made after the fact. We were in a cheap apartment called La Prada, and Carmack was downstairs working on stuff, and we had used lumps in the previous games and stuff. And I was working upstairs doing the Doom Bible, and he called up and said, "I need an extension. What's a bunch of lumps?" And I said, "WAD."
Okay, I'm gonna pause this for a second here. Okay, so what a Bible is like when people are creating a game, it's going to be what the game achievements are. What does the programmers and developers want to be able to put into the game for the end users to have the best experience. So it's a set of rules, it's a set of guidelines. It's like the 10 Commandments in this Bible on what they achieve to do, what they can do, and also what they can't do. So that's what a Bible is. Okay, moving on.
Said, yeah, that works. Okay.
A lot of lumps.
So a lot of people started using that, and then the LucasArts
and then Dark Forces later named their files GOBS, so everyone was kind of coming up with another three-letter extension.
Yeah.
And so after we were in these apartments and kind of putting together the file formats for Doom, it then finally moves to the Black Cube in Mesquite, which was just down the street from the apartment complex. And
thank you, Google, for providing a picture of Down East Tower.
Yeah.
Which there's no other one.
Google Street View.
Yeah. So we basically start thinking about what is Doom going to be? What is this next game? Kind of it started with the name.
Yeah.
We played a lot of D&D for years before we started making Doom, and so we decided that this was going to be one of our D&D inspired games. Carmack was really excited to do a game, and we all agreed. We just did Nazis, so demons
what
are
else
whatever.
is evil? Oh well.
What else is evil?
That was kind of easy,
So then
Social games.
Tom starts working on the Doom Bible right after we move in, and then he finished it at the very end of November of 1992. And it was basically a whole kind of a design document for a lot of the game, a lot of the sketches of where all the levels are in the game, and the names of stuff,
progressions you go through, list all the tools, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can look it up on the internet.
This is kind of part of the beginning of the design doc here to kind of say what Doom is.
Okay,
and,
so let's pause this here. All right, so this is back in the day in 1993. Which is no different than when we actually make up our own Bibles for our own games, eh? Yeah, so the text might be a little small for some people, especially if they're on mobile, so I'm just going to read it off here. So coming in 1993, Doom from the Doom Bible. You are one of 4 off-duty soldiers suddenly thrown into the middle of an interdimensional war. Wave after wave of demonic creatures spread through the research base that you're stationed. You must eradicate the enemy and find out where they're coming from. When you find out the truth, your sense of reality may be shattered. Later episodes feature a journey into another dimension, filled with this hellish horizon with fire and flesh. Decide the fate of 2 universes as you battle to survive. Succeed and you will be humanity's heroes. Fail and you will spell its doom. The program features in the Bible for the game before they even write the first line of code is fully texture map walls, floors, and ceilings. Light diminishing and light sourcing so distance objects are enshrouded in darkness unless a light source is nearby. 256 color VJ graphics, and we're just, nowadays we have millions and millions of colors to play with, especially with Unreal Engine 4 and 5, where we have emissive lighting and all that. It's uncanny that they were able to achieve what they were able to do way back in the day in 1993 with only 256 colors. It's like if you export something as a GIF or a PNG and you only work with 256 colors or less. That's all they had. Really, that's all they had. And as well as the status readouts of your helmet, so a HUD, a heads-up display, tons of punch-packing power-ups and wicked weapons. So they were able to put some flourishes in their Bible, so when they were designing the game, they could see these expressive words to go, okay, we have to make some wicked weapons, like the BFG, right? And punch packing power-ups. So got to design and think of some power-ups that the player will use and want to seek after in the game, as well as explore a seamless world inside and outside with incredible movie-like cinematic sequences with only 256 colors. It's incredible. An available speech pack, so they wanted to include some type of speech in there. And it isn't just like words talking, it's also with the grunts and growls and howls and whatnot too, eh? And also have the ability to have 4-player connectivity at once through LANs, which is a local area network. So 4 computers were connected to like a switch, so all 4 people can all play in the same arena at one time, which was groundbreaking back in the day. And also over the the old 9600 baud modems that I was talking about before on previous stream, 2 people can be in the same environment and also have 6 exciting episodes of violent mayhem. So they even had it right in their Bible that this was going to be a very violent game. Yeah, Doom, the sanest place, is behind a trigger. So they knew that the best way to control the environment is best weapons available to have your violent mayhem. Yeah, and then they have on here Doom, produced by id Software, creators of Wolfenstein 3D, and requires an old 386 SX PC compatible computer or better, with a VJ graphics card and 2 megabytes of memory. 2 megabytes of memory. Now we're complaining about 16 gigabytes is not enough for playing our games. We want more. We want 32 to 64. Fantastic. Okay, so moving along.
There were a lot of, we were coming up with all these ideas for the technology of the game and like what it's going to be, and we felt like really sure before making the game what it probably was going to turn out to be like. Like we knew what the technology advances were going to be. We had an idea that we were going to be doing some dark subject matter. It was going to be like not bright halls with Nazis in them, but like dark, scary, hallways.
I call it
lots of halls.
Scary, dark, fast. That's basically the game.
We made a lot of halls because of Tom's last name.
Yeah,
but,
so theme.
So part of the design was, Tom wanted to do like what we'd done in Wolfenstein, progression that was like level to level progression.
Yeah, like people really expected that from Wolfenstein, and I think that was not the place to innovate. Essentially, I think that was a really good. I can complete a chunk, and perhaps frustratingly complete a chunk, but I can get there and boom, I have a success, and that was a good sense of accomplishment that was very important to this kind of game. And then John was thinking about the technology and what he could do with the tech, and he was like, he was starting to lay down some of the basic data structures, but he also was thinking big. So John wanted one big world. He just wanted like one big level. Everybody's gonna run around the level. You could like see through doors and then So then it was like, okay, it's one big level, and we're doing sort of
Let's
science
look at the
fiction.
data there.
Yeah, science fiction with demons and stuff like that. Well, let's make a big base, and then we'll have places to go and kind of sense of place and so on.
So we start calculating, how much memory are we going to use for this game?
Which they are doing, while I'm doing about a month of work on this big world and all these things and little nuances and
we're like
details
calculating
of it.
sprite sizes, map sizes.
And there's this cool computer room, and there's all these tunnels.
And we're like, there's
where
no
they
way
work
that
on
this is going to work.
bats,
I mean, we don't have enough memory. We can
kind of
barely
weird, dangerous slide.
we barely go above 1
the
megabyte.
lava
right?
there, and like this,
So we're like,
and you recognize real
we have a new
places
design.
when
Hey,
demons
dude,
come out.
like new design.
What?
We're going to just kind of do levels. So
That's funny. I remember something about that a month ago.
yeah. So that
Jam
was,
it all
not
in.
fun.
And
so
then trash
Tom
it.
was,
Can't do that. We can't
not
do
very
that.
happy about that.
I feel something snapping.
Yeah. Mentally.
Yeah. When we were in Wolfenstein.
Now I'm going to pause this again for a second here. So this is really interesting. So they just flooded after they built their Bible, they flooded what they want, all their ideas. So they put everything down. They vomited everything out that they could think of to have this great encompassing world. And then they were stonewalled by how much available memory the computers were that be able to run the game that they wanted to have people play and enjoy. So a lot of their ideas back in the day, back in 1993, they had to be trashed. And they had to innovate, they had to think, they had to be problem solvers to be able to have their ultimate goal is to have their players enjoy their game. So this is what I find is really fantastic about the way people's mindset were back in the retro days. They had to innovate, they had to think on their feet a lot of times, and then they try something and it doesn't work, and they had to work their way around it within the confines of what the equipment is. Because nowadays now it's flip-flopped. The technology is so advanced and so incredible that I think a lot of game designers don't have enough restraint to only include the best stuff. They put everything they can, even if their very first game, they put everything they can into what they're trying to do, and then they lose their focus. They completely lose their focus. Whereas this way, back in the day, they still had all their ideas out there, but they had to trash the ones that they conceivably could not do, which ultimately made for a better game. All right.
Since it was something that was not an elegant part of the engine, I had to really, really, really fight for push walls. But it's like, you're going to be walking through things, opening doors, you got to have some secrets, I'm like, I grew up, playing Mario and stuff like that. I want secrets. And so I really, really fought for push walls. Finally got in, and it's exciting. So that was kind of like snap zero of like, why am I fighting for something that would make the game so fun? And then sort of like, what was that month of work that was lost? So, but in that sense, did you hear that? In that sense, I mean, Carmack was trying to get the best technology out there and what he could, the best way he can innovate, and I was trying to do the same, and just like that kind of clash heads a bit.
Yes. So now we'll focus on December. We're all working. We know that half the month is gone for vacations and stuff. Even though we're doing Doom and it's exciting, we're still human, and everybody should be taking vacation. Everybody.
But
at Christmas.
Where people go.
So here's a picture of Tom with hair, and he's using.
Thanks everybody. I've lost my glasses. Well, I'll never see them. By the way, as advice to any of you, if you ever invent anything, just go get a patent on it, regardless, because
copyright.
Because at this time, I was at the desk and I was kind of, my wrists are kind of sore. So I had my girlfriend sew this 3 years before computer wrist pads came out. And that's kind of always been a long regret of mine. But
could have been rich.
Anyway, but
you can.
My wrists were happy. That's all that's important.
Anyone can see. Perhaps there's an Alta Lansing speaker on the right. This is all ancient technology. But the next computer was actually like a Mac right now. It's basically the same operating system that you're using right now with the
Mac over it.
With the Mac UI on top of it.
And thanks Pepsi for sponsoring this slide.
Yeah. A nice old calculator for some
reason. The names lined up perfectly for that, wasn't it? Yeah.
So then we moved to January. January we were beginning making the game, and there was with us, these games never have like pre-production where we like draw a bunch of concepts and then kind of vet things. When we make something, it goes in the game. That's just the way it is. So we immediately start creating the technology, and we start creating the artwork, and we're very confident that what we're making is going to be pretty awesome. And so we put out a press release in January as we basically begin making the game, telling the world how revolutionary the game is going to be. and the press release had like, here's the big features that we had at the end of the press release, and each of these features in the real press release, which you can like Google on the internet, has a whole bunch of explanation behind it, and probably...
Okay, I think they're not going to say it, but I'm going to read them off in case you can't read these on mobile because the text looks fairly small. It says, the features, an overview of Doom features, text mapped environment, non-orthogonal walls, light diminishing light sourcing, variable height floors and ceilings, and environment animation and morphing, okay, and palette transition, multiple players, smooth, seamless gameplay, and it's an open game.
For
some reason, it's not
didn't even
capturing
make it
my
into
notes, but that's okay. We can adjust that later.
Don't do a press release before your game was actually out.
There was a gardening section that just really didn't fit.
Yeah,
so.
it was like
gardening
decades later.
section.
It was then we get into February. That's when we actually start making art. We were trying to do new things, so instead of just like drawing pixels in Deluxe Paint and making the art that way, Adrian, who was a really amazing pure artist, he would draw the actual characters, and then he started making them in clay, modeling them in clay, and we had a Next computer that had a video camera that was set up to capture the monsters as they were put on like a lazy Susan that could rotate eighths. We had like a post that would mark off eighths, and so we would take a kind of a picture of it and run it through a program called the.
They said, what's the name? And we're like putting stuff in, and like little like separate things are coming out, like pallets and stuff like that. Well, I just had like Fuzzy Pumper Pallet Shop or something.
Yeah,
and that sucked. So
that was the name of the tool that we made to take these 16-bit images through a video camera and palletize them into VGA's 256 colors.
And they were doing this back in 1993.
So Adrian only did like a few of these clay models, and then that was it. There's no more. He's not doing that anymore. Because every time you can animate them, the clay just rips.
Because we had to light them, so when you light clay, then it goes.
Yeah, it's all over. It was new and weird, so we kind of stopped doing that. We basically got the engine up and running pretty quickly, throughout January and then into just the very beginning of February. And we took some screenshots, and actually we made a bunch of alphas and stuff while we were making the game. And how many of you have actually seen Doom alphas? Not that many people.
No,
cool,
I
so
haven't.
you'll get to see them.
All those hands we raised in about 2 minutes.
So we have the first level that Tom was working on. Actually got in the game as E2M7, but it was supposed to be like the first level in the game. But we had a different UI.
And that was the first crate maze ever made in the game.
Yes.
But part of that was basically John was worried about like too many polys in the environment, because he wanted fast, and then really have a blazing fast game. So I kind of made crate maze and things like that were more orthogonal and a lot very occlusive. So it would be faster and faster.
So we had, we were experimenting with UI. We had that's Tom's basic UI that he drew himself. And then the other one was it?
I'm available for art duties later.
He did a great job. I want you.
The other UI? Was it done by Adrian?
The second one is done by Adrian. Oh, no.
Oh, the chainsaw. Nice.
He did the shell and I did the text.
Oh, okay.
This is my girlfriend's chainsaw.
Why is your girlfriend have a
Eager
chainsaw?
Beaver. It's sitting I used to be sitting on one of my arcade machines, but I sold it, so now it's sitting in my garage. And if you come over, you can like go like that.
And play with it.
But it's kind of drippy and stuff. It's an old chainsaw, it doesn't work anymore.
So you can see there's like a power cable going to the video camera that was used to digitize the actual chainsaw, and so all the actual weapons that you saw in Doom were just toys that we bought at Toys R Us, and we just kind of held them in front of the video camera and took a snapshot. And we only had so many toys. I think it was like 3 or 4. So we just kind of took pieces and kind of slammed them together in Deluxe Paint and kind of edited them and stuff. So like the plasma gun and the BFG are kind of the same weapon toy.
Yeah. The lower res you are, the better art you can do. So it was fine for that time.
That's the
actual
shotgun.
cap gun. Yeah.
It was a Dakota, the Tootsie Toy Dakota cap gun. We didn't actually play with these toys at work. We were just really busy working.
And at this time,
Fringe
basically,
benefit.
Carmack, really wanted efficient spaces. So he says, get books on military stuff. It's basically, give me cement buildings, bunkers, very, very squarish things and so on. It'll really run fast. It'll be very efficient, And I was like, okay. And then went over and looked at various things like this.
That were not very inspiring.
Yeah, they're kind of block. It's sort of like that movie. It's boxy but good. Well, it's not that great.
So Tom made a bunch of levels that were a bunch of cement blocks basically with some other textures put on it, and they weren't that fun to go into because it was like corridors with rooms that you kind of go into, and it might make sense when you're playing a game where hey, demons have taken over a military base, so make it look like a military base and have demons sitting in the rooms, but flow-wise, it just was no fun. It was bizarro. So
Bizarro.
So it wasn't that cool.
I think I got into the game, the word bizarro somewhere.
We kind of made a demo, our first pre-alpha of the game, and that's what we have here. Hopefully it'll play correctly.
The lens for rendering that we did back then was great.
Oh, look at that. Classic.
So yes, Evil Unleashed was our subtitle back then. And so this was basically the first level that we made using the data structures we created and DoomEd, which was the tool that I wrote to create the levels. And you can see the second gen UI there with like auto map in the top right, and this was the first time the monsters were rotating in the engine. Yeah,
and again, the interface was made sort of larger, so there'd be less actual screen real estate to render. Again, it was a sort of performance thing. It's going to be faster if there's like sort of 60, 70% of the screen to render.
But it doesn't look that cool when most of your screen is taken up with a bunch of UI crap.
It's kind of like old school, like a game like System Shock or something, where it's important to have an interface around you because you're physically doing things like that. But here, you're just like it's in a raw environment and it doesn't really.
Yeah, I want to see his head, So we had the UI there. We could actually put a UI in the game. See, it's not working too well. Take it out.
And there were items at this time. If you notice on the screen, I believe there's a sandwich, both a sandwich and a Heart of Lothar on the same screen.
There were a lot of, like the captain's hand was a key to a door, and so there's a lot of esoteric kind of items.
More like adventure-y kind of things, since it was one
placeholders for future items, right.
Let's see, is this the same?
Pre-alpha is what flashed on screen.
Okay. Yes, March. Finally get past February. In March,
strange thing happened.
In March, something interesting happened while we're making the game. So 20th Century Fox contacted us because we did Wolfenstein, which was a pretty fast game, and they thought that we would be the right team to make Aliens the game. And so we already have a technology running. We're ready to start running with Doom, and they kind of stop us because we all love Aliens.
Yeah,
especially one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, especially Adrian. So the shapes of the monsters. We had Giger books all over the place in the art room.
H.R. Giger.
So
the bathroom,
Yeah, totally.
I don't know what that means, but
we talked about it for half an hour. That's about it. It was like, hey guys, here's a really awesome opportunity. We talked about it, and we're like, you know what? I don't want to give up creative control on this game. This could be something that's like really original. But we do like the idea of running away from. We were talking about demons already, so it's like, well, it'll be kind of, alien-ish.
Sci-fi with demons. That the mix of science and sort of mythos and stuff like that, it was one of the true powerful things, the juxtaposition. Right?
Yeah, if you're in space, you kind of expect fighting aliens, but you don't expect fighting hell. So that was that was something we thought was going to be cool. So we decided, let's not do the aliens attacking the Space Marine. Let's do the hell demons attacking the Space Marine. That'd be more original. It was back then.
Really?
So then we start doing, I'm working on this level, which is the second level of the game, E1M2, and you can see the horrible, that wall texture with the brown crap on it and the red stripe. But I was like having to explore, like forget the cement square, rooms with the, the hallways at 90 degrees and stuff. I wanted shapes that were more interesting. And you can see these are like real kind of early textures, but I was trying to make a level that didn't feel realistic, but you could still kind of identify it as a place that might be military base, because you're kind of at a science station on a moon. So I wanted it to be more interesting to explore. So that's where I started to play around with lots of contrast in room heights and contrast in lighting, and because the engine does really great lighting. In fact, on this slide, the Doom engine did something that I don't know many other engines do. I think the build engine did it, but it does what's called diminished lighting, where the light gets darker automatically through the engine as it tries to render off into the distance, which means that you have a game that's just automatically scary. You don't even have to really try. You just kind of just draw some stuff, make the light a little bit, medium, and it's just dark in the distance, and you can have like a really bright light in the background to create silhouettes of stuff. So the Doom engine was really amazing for creating scary spaces because it just made it scary automatically. So then I made this room, which I don't think to you guys is very impressive looking, but back then this was the room that really changed the look of the game, because this was before all that other stuff that you saw. This was really like the room that showed, hey, we can have like high ceilings with banks of computers up higher than the player,
right, yeah.
and show like a real how high can this get? What kind of scale can I get in this game? This was almost one of these. We're kind of defining the possible scale of the game, and this is one way that we're doing it through this room.
Yeah, it's a very important difference in that most games, which is kind of where we started, are doing a very functional, I could be here in this space, there's a console that I could use kind of thing, where this was kind of an abstraction or a different, almost a artistic choice to just elevate and make things grow and be huge and big and different. And that was like, this room is like the start of something like very large that really defined Doom, and that was brilliant by John.
Yeah, just the abstract level design instead of trying to be realistic is really what this room started.
Yeah.
And so we basically, everybody loved it. The artists came in and were like, that's it, man. So that's it. The game is, the level design is set. Basically we're going to be doing the abstract stuff. But then disaster struck.
Dun, 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 dun.
What happened? We all had to stop working on Doom. It's so drama-filled, this whole game.
The finale of Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. The Super Nintendo version that we had gotten a guy to work on was not finished, and Imagineer was not pleased. It had been, since I think the summertime, so it'd been like about 9 months. And they hadn't heard anything from us, and we're like, oh, what? That guy was working on the port, and we couldn't get a hold of the guy, and like it was a nightmare situation because we couldn't get it done basically with somebody else, and so basically we stopped working on Doom right in the middle kind of, and basically ported Wolfenstein to the Super Nintendo, and so the whole team jumped on it. Artists jumped on art, just like stop Doom. I
have a programming degree, and I've been doing design for a long time, but I pulled that out and did the bonus screen where all the junk bounces around on the screen at the end. It's just, everybody's like, help,
we got to get done with this thing. We got to get back on Doom. We wanted to ship at Christmas, so we all jumped on it, and it took us 3 weeks to just blast out the port. And that's including all of the, put rats in there and green blood and all of,
Yeah,
that
for
stuff.
some reason, Nintendo didn't like, like swastikas and Hitler and stuff like that. So you fought the Meisterstat.
Yes.
Whatever.
Came up with
We had
all
to
the
get it
names
out.
for the stuff.
Yeah, and green slime instead of red blood.
We could kind of get back to it. Work on Doom. Started again after.
And that was
3
at
weeks,
Christmas
like,
time
what
too,
the
eh?
hell? And then I was working on that E1M2 level, and I made this thing here, which is like a, it looks kind of innocent. These stairs that kind of go down, but the way that the code was structured, it caused a recursion problem when John was traversing his sector list internal data structure. It slowed the game way down because it was looking into something that had to go in and out of a list recursively, and the game super started chugging, and he liked the way that the game was starting to look, so he wanted to fix the problem instead of, hey, just draw a bunch of blocks.
Yeah, so that was the cool moment there, because like I sat there, was given constraints and said, well, I'll do the best I can with these sort of blockish things, and John just said, hey, this looks cool, screw you, make your tech cool.
Yeah, fix the engine, dude. This is really cool looking.
That's the great part of the tension of a team of great people is that the ability to do that.
So what the way that he was storing the sectors internally and traversing through them wasn't any kind of rocket science or anything, but that's kind of why we hit this problem with this area of the level. So basically, John had to fix the problem, and so he started reading up, and then the Bsp Tree was born. This was based off of work by a guy in the audience here named Bruce Naylor, and he had researched this for, I think it was backface culling off of 3D models, and John had read a white paper on it and decided, hey, I could use that, into basically that culling algorithm to cull out non-visible sectors inside of a level. So he adapted that algorithm into the engine, and it was instantaneous. It's
awesome.
Super fast, and that
was great. So John Carmack was impressed, about like this looks really cool, and he could see that, and that's what led him to technology.
Yeah,
so.
and that was great because the whole industry has been using BSPs now for a very long time, a couple decades, I think.
And it all started with Doom.
Then, almost.
Yeah, and we're still using them to this day, different iterations of them.
So then we get to April, and we work on another alpha. We kind of get another alpha out there. This is like some of the text. I don't know if you guys can read it, but this is some of the text out of the README file that we always put in all of our deliverables that we kind of send out. And these were just sent out to like beta testers that we've known for years. So it's just a few people that we sent these to. But we kind of reached what we felt was
I thought he was going to read them
milestone.
All. So let me go back because there we go. Okay, so I'm going to read off what it says here. So it says, Dear id beta tester, yes, it is the Doom Alpha. Actually, we're just trying to release these every 2 weeks or so. This was going to be a pre-beta, but a certain person let us down, Super Nintendo cart programming vice. So we're just an alpha. Nevertheless, here it is. Okay, id news. We're live on the internet. We have been wandering around all the amazing news groups. Tom already saw a lot of them in college. Tom, John, K, or R, I think it's an R, and the respective squeezes went to Phantom of the Opera. Carmack's driving his Ferrari in Kansas City. Jay's a proud new papa, with son Nicholas is doing fine. Adrian's new host is getting lined up. Kevin's softball game is on tonight, and that line is right in the middle there. Thanks, progress line. And then the last one says, we're beaming about our best action arcade of 1993 SBA Award. Okay, so I'm going to rewind this just a little bit more so I can read that one line here for you guys. So hang on.
This is like some of the
final
text.
line
I don't know if you guys can read it, but this
says,
is some of the text
Sean's
out of
enjoying
the
his news
README file that we always put in
48633
all of our
and scoping out
deliverables
clock
that we kind of send
doublers.
out. And these were just sent out to like beta testers that we've known for years. So it's just a few people that we sent these to.
Very cool.
But we kind of reached what we felt was an alpha milestone.
And there's something else I wanted to bring up too. I'm going to pause it here. Is that even to this day, it's people get invested with your story, your development story. Like I'm developing something here in the back, and I'm laying it all out. I'm showing everyone our initial baby steps and where our head is at while we're getting our assets and design put together, right? And then once we actually get right into full development, you can understand why we're doing things a certain way, because we're looking back into history on how the great successes were and how they were able to overcome challenges. This is excellent. Okay, moving along.
So this
People
is
called like football or push wall and fruit basket.
yeah, actually that's the name of some of the
Two of our
testers. So we're using a DOS extender to take advantage of 4 megabytes of memory, so we're not limited to the lower 640K. And down at the bottom left, you can see the little 2 dots. That's kind of our frame rate counter down at the bottom, since we didn't want to put a big number on the screen. Hey man, if this gets out, you can all kiss your autographed Doom
Hint books goodbye.
So you can explain the
Yeah.
news.
So this room was a little more sort of a story-based thing. When, like, Doom was a great game with sort of, things jumping out at you and just pure, raw experience, which was brilliant about it. At this point, my thought about it was, hey, there's, speaking of aliens, what Jim Cameron did that was so great is he showed you just at the start of the movie, there's all these people's transponders in this one place over there, and your journey is towards that, so you have a deeper and deeper and deeper sense of dread as you head to it. And so that was the very, very small, simple story I was trying to inject on there, is just that sense of deeper dread underneath the scary sort of experience. But as you know, it's kind of boxy right now in this version.
Yeah, this is one of the early boxy, hey, do military boxy room kind of stuff, and that's why you can see it's.
Yeah, and at that time we had to, we're trying to find a texture style and stuff. So the silvery, cool one was like kind of realistic looking. It was kind of a really interesting,
More spacey.
yeah, more spacey and kind of cool, and the stone and stuff. So we kind of stuck with what was okay to do.
This was E1M7, and there might be some people out there that have played E1M7 a million times. This is like the really early version of E1M7. So if you play the level a lot, you totally know where you're at in here, but how different it is from the actual release game. This is a lot of still using these limited amount of textures. We didn't have that many textures back then because we kind of were dumping a lot of effort into the modeling and the texturing, or the characters, having to basically do pixel editing of the characters, cleaning up all the frames, and that was a lot of work to clean those guys up.
And it's the weekend here, so there's none of the demons are there. Taking some time off, knocking one back.
That's the end of E1M2, or that's E1M6.
Yeah, the lighting. Yeah.
A lot of you can see I was playing around here with actually I did all the programming of everything that happens in the environment in the game. So all the flashing lights, the stairs, the platforms, the switches, all that stuff. I was coding all of that and testing it in my levels. So while I'm making the levels, I'm testing the functionality of the levels at the same time with cool features like, hey, it'd be cool if this, there's some lockers. It'd be really cool. There's some demons in the shower here. That's what that's supposed to be.
You get dirty, killing and maiming and all that stuff.
Blood and guts on
Assigning
your
souls
arms.
to hell and all that stuff. But, at this point, I'm very glad he was doing some of the gameplay stuff right now, because sometimes it's difficult to get gameplay stuff in sort of a technical focused company. So I really wanted teleporters in the game. Teleporters were my new push wall. So I stole one of Adrian's graphics, and I colorized it red, and I then stole his metal texture and put bands around it, and I said, here, can you make this teleport to another one of these somewhere else in the level? And it's like, okay. So that was awesome. It's like, I'm free, I can go over here and do special rooms and all. It was nice to be able to do that, so it was non-snappy.
Yeah, this was basically E1M2. And I think that's probably the end of that video. We had little signs and stuff in there.
Very steep stairs, but the look of the lighting that they were able to accomplish way back in the day on old 386, 486 computers.
Dark Hall. There's the exit.
Why?
Q. Yeah, that's basically everyone that was in the company at that time, at the very bottom there.
I'm gonna read. Oh, I'm gonna read off the text there. So the text there, it says, "Doom: Evil Unleashed, a rather scary 3D game by id Software. This is the alpha version of Doom. If you're not a beta tester, then you're quite the bad person." Meaning they obtain a copy when they weren't supposed to from a friend. Delete your copy of Doom, and you'll be safe from our wrath. Watch for more great games from id Software coming soon. Yeah. So programmers John Carmack and John Romero, artists Adrian Carmack and Kevin Cloud, creative director Tom Hall, chief operating officer Jay Wilbur, software support Sean Green. Okay, moving along.
Basically everyone that was in the company at that time, at the very bottom there. So it was a pretty small team, and then we get to May of 1993. And so we put out another pre-beta. I don't think that this is like maybe a minute, but we're improving the game. We're making new builds. It's funny that they're not out all over the place. So it's good to get the video here. So we were like, this is getting more real. We got a lot more textures in this. You can see the UI at the bottom is totally changed up. We're just playing around with new things.
We have a font.
Yeah, now there's a menu system, and so we took some those little markers on the side there are kind of taken from Wolfenstein, but we basically are trying to kind of fill out the menu system so we can program some stuff in there.
I'm gonna pause this. Okay, so even this great company back in the day, they're creating a new intellectual property, a new IP, and they will still salvage pieces from their own previous successful games to put into their new game. It's upcycling, and they used to do it back in the day, and we still do it today. And some people really frown upon upcycling, where they say, oh, everything has to be all new code, has to be new. Well, it's not really about reinventing the wheel. It's about making sure that if you have something that works that you own, why don't you re-implement it into something else and expand on it and then make it better because you already built on the solid foundation that already worked. So they're upscaling stuff that's worked for them into their new intellectual property. And they did it back in 1993, and we still do it today. But I think it's something that a lot of companies should still do. It'll save on time, save on resources, but you could expand and build upon that and just make it better. All right.
Some more functionality, so we don't have to like put command line parameters to enable functionality. We got our skill levels in there because we need to put stuff in the levels. Like while we're making the levels, we got to be able to put monsters of varying difficulty in there. So like now we're getting more just kind of more of the game actually going. So yeah, you can see they just disappear now. But hey, you can shoot them. You can shoot the demons. They disappear. Not fun, but at least it's working. And in this, I think this was pretty much the whole thing, this little bitty level. But it gave us a lot more textures, some shooting, new UI, menu system. So we're kind of dumping a whole bunch of stuff in there with just there's just two of us programming at that time, just me and John.
Two people
but
team.
The artists
Wow.
are doing a lot of work redoing, the bullet clips and the armor and the artifacts that you pick up. Because in the game you actually were picking up a lot of artifacts. It was keeping track of items that you picked up, even all the way until October. So eventually decided that was not going to be a fun thing to do, picking up all these items. We were doing that in Wolfenstein, but it wasn't something that kind of fit inside this game. And there's, I think that's Tom's.
Yeah, that's, you think that? I think that Adrian did that. I'm pretty sure. That sort of speaks sort of to the original One World design being like turned into like map that you go through.
Yes, we were at June. In June, I think Jay had talked to Computer Gaming World, which was the really cool magazine back there for PC games. And so a guy named Chris Lombardi came out, and he did a preview of Doom. It was a 2-pager. This is just one of them. And he did a really great job on this preview, sneak peek. And so they actually, in this issue of CGW, they did 2 previews. One was called Companions of Xanth, and one was Doom. And they got Companions of Xanth on the cover with a kind of a mention of Doom on it. So that was really cool that we actually got ourselves mentioned on the cover of a magazine finally. The first time that we actually got any kind of press was, I think, on the phone after Wolfenstein. We did like a radio interview with somebody, and so that was really exciting.
And random.
Yeah, and so it was cool to see, the first time that Doom was in something. We're right in the middle of development.
Okay, so I'm going to read the little bit of text that's on there for you guys on mobile. It says, sneak preview. They're going to hell for this one. The bad boys of id Software take the 3D engine to new depths. Okay, there we go.
So now July hits.
Yeah, and at this time, you notice Doom has a lot of variety in monsters. At this time, like a month before, there was nothing flying. There was a bunch of going, and shooting stuff at you, throwing stuff at you, coming and destroying you and stuff like that. And again, it was sort of a fight to say, there needs to be something flying. I realize, this is fake 3D and stuff, but there needs to be something flying, something that can come down at me, something that doesn't have to be on the same path that I am, something that can come up and, scare the crap out of you. And finally, after a lot of effort, then finally we got the flying skulls and things like that. So,
but it was kind of a fight.
Yeah. And that kind of led to another little snap in my happiness, like trying to, this should be obvious, why can't we just, do this and that's cool. So anyways, so at that time, there's like id and there's me and there's a circle of, people having fun and really loving what they do and talking to each other, and I'm kind of like isolated and alone like the sad clown.
Oh, oh man. I'm doing all this work and everyone else is having fun.
Tom wanted more creativity. Things were getting optimized out of the design, and so we kind of felt that Tom's vision was kind of too much for what we were trying to boil the game down to, which is pure speed, demons, keys, doors.
Since it's scary, dark, fast, things like I wanted were like environment dangers, things that were different from a bunch of hallways and green slime and stuff like that. And in the end, it's just like, like it's difficult to be. The thing was a pure thing, and it's difficult to be on the 5th version of the same thing, and it seems they've done a few more of those. That you just want to, get your creative yayas out, and so I think
he was kind of ahead of the design game, where we're trying to,
considering
mass popularize that.
Considering I was making trees out of like green blocks, I was kind of like, and I was ready to explode.
So then we get to August, and so then Tom leaves.
We depart. We parted ways, and we sort of had a meeting and just like parted ways. And after the meeting, I felt a deep sense of relief, because this thing is like just sort of been eating at me and been unhappy and not getting my creative juices out. And that led me to the realization that all of us wanted was creative happiness. Creative happiness always wins, and it will make things sort out. So Carmack wanted his technical creative happiness and to do what he wanted to do. John had found creative happiness. He's getting to do a lot more design, that he's brilliant at, instead of just like being hampered by tools and stuff like that. And this allowed me to get out. Unfortunately, I kind of did Rise of Triad, which a number of people like. But it was sort of like Wolfenstein 1.5, and I'm really proud of the death match. The death match has incredible, like crazy things going on, drunk missiles, and flame walls and stuff. And actually, there's an inside story. The God mode of Rise of the Triad is actually something John did while no clipping through walls in Wolfenstein. Because he would sit there and he'd turn no clip on to like go look at a different room or something, and then he'd just kind of go, ooh, like I am moving through walls. I will destroy you all. So that kind of turned into God mode, and they're like, ooh, I will destroy you. Kind of an inside joke. But the thing I want to get, the point I want to make about that though is, did Rise of the Triad, but then eventually years later, I did get my creative yayas completely out with Anachronox, which is a space game which had characters, which really had a really sense of space, and I'm really proud of the writing and the experience of that. So
yeah, Tom actually was developing Prey after Rise of the Triad, and he left 3D Realms. They kind of renamed themselves.
Yeah.
He left 3D Realms while he was on Prey to help start up Ion Storm so he could make Anachronox, his giant RPG.
Yeah, Prey was an interesting project. I had sort of a interesting thing that kind of showed up a little bit in Anachronox, but it's a series of combined classes, you know, that each kind of contribute to each other. There's 3 primaries and two that add to each other. And
Oh, that's cool.
But that just wasn't creatively working out, and the team wasn't really happy with it either, the way things were going. The one thing that I do like that is in Prey is grab paths, so you can just walk up the wall. I had the very perfect image originally in Prey of being able to go like this and throw a grenade and have it bounce on the ceiling like that and wait for somebody to shoot it like that. So it would be a great deathmatch kind of thing. Anyway.
So then,
I learned Anachronox.
So then Tom goes and eventually he does Anachronox, but during this time, Tom's gone. Tom was creative director and he was on the project for 10 months, and now there's a void, and so we need to hire some other people because I'm not going to finish doing all the levels myself because I still had programming to do in the game and everything else.
But you know, I just wanted to say one more thing, and that, can you stand over here?
All right.
Point your mic at me. I just wanted to say that I am proud to have worked on Doom, and after 18 some years, I can wear this shirt and say that, you know, I wrote it.
We can't see it. Okay. I'm sure there at the GDC it was a great reveal. Yay.
Yeah.
That'll be $20 for another shirt to come off, if you know what I'm saying.
We actually made Wolfenstein shirts that way as well. So Wolfenstein 3D wrote it, and then we did a bunch of the Doom ones while we were making the game. It's pretty funny. So
yeah. Actually, we came up with. I think I did the Wrote It shirts, and then I did the Go to Hell ad, and then like Apple did these really simple couple word ads. I think they stole it from me personally. But.
Oh yeah. Okay, so now we have to hire some new people, right? So we just hired 2 more people to replace Tom. Dave Taylor, everybody knows Dave, hopefully. And then the legendary Sandy Peterson, who was working with Chaosium on Call of Cthulhu and a bunch of other stuff. So he was a well-known designer back then. So then these guys jump on the game. Sandy is taking over Tom's design work. Dave is doing a lot of programming for us to get the game out. You know, we get into September. We're making a lot of progress on the auto map. Lots of levels are getting done in the style of game levels back then. And we get the DMX sound drivers. We didn't have enough bandwidth to do the sound drivers ourselves, so we
I'm going to pause this for a second.
Had a guy named Paul Radek.
Okay, so take a look at the maps here, and especially the one on the right-hand side. Look at how those exterior corridors are done. A lot of them are on curves. Way back in the day, when you're playing first-person shooters through the eyes of the actual character that you're in, when you had to go around a corner, it was a 90-degree turn. It was usually you get to the very end of the 90-degree turn and going around. Here is, especially way back in Wolfenstein, but not so much Wolfenstein, but more so in Doom, is that they had angled corridors, and the angles weren't always 90 degrees or even 45 degrees. It was some different angles in there too, like 15 degrees and I guess you could say like 70-degree angles. So this was profound. So this is how great the programming was for Doom, that they're able to innovate and then model along. So yeah, we'll continue on here.
He wrote the sound drivers that he was licensing out, so Dave got those hooked into the game so we could actually get sound effects and everything. In October, we finally get another build of the game. It's a pre-release, and it's getting close. You know, we're only, I think, 2 months away from release at this point. So, so the game's looking better. You can see way more textures in it. The lighting's better. We had a lot more time to make more of an environment in this game. So this doesn't have the sound effects in it because it would be annoying. But you can see how much more work's been done to that really simple level, and it does take a lot of time when you're making levels to just keep going over and over the same area and refining your texture alignment and your lighting and your effects and your placement and everything that you're trying to do in these things. Making a great level requires a ton of iteration and a ton of play. You need to play your own level, and so I played these things a lot. And this isn't even the final version of it because there's no lift there in the final game. You can see that even the sky is different. That's like trying to be realistic. It looks like you're on Phobos and there's space above the mountains, which sure, space would be black like that, but it doesn't look that good. A black void like that doesn't feel as good as something that has more light. So we kind of made it. We changed the final sky to actually be light colored. So the level actually felt a lot better.
Yeah, if you put like stars in there, they would kind of alias or something with it.
Yeah, they would drop out and kind of look samply. You can see that we're picking up items, we're keeping track of items, and next to the Doom guy's head we have the lives. So we still had those kind of things in the game. Even at the intermission screen, it was keeping track of, your rewards for items that you picked up and stuff. But I basically just didn't think that I felt like this is a pretty modern game. Let's get rid of the things that arcade games had in them. So I didn't like the idea that you would have to have lives and like you could end the game and kind of get really mad because you tried really hard to get through like E2 M5 or something. So I got rid of the idea of lives, and if you get killed, you just go back to the beginning of the level infinitely, as much as you want. And we have a save load feature in the game where you can save it at any second while you're playing it and reload it instantly. So it would be, there's a high probability that players will be able to actually finish the game and get through it. So you can see here, walking through E1 M2, how much different it is. You can see that these fireballs from these guys is still, I think it's Tom's art.
Yeah.
The fireballs that they're throwing is old. But at least you can see the game getting more done. And really, the next step past this point was the final game. It was just the next revision of all of these little layers of graphics and level design and menu systems and stuff like that. So you can see, actually had to run a TSR program called Fake Date to allow me to record the demo because we had a time-locked press release version that we sent out. So, it's hard to say. I don't think you can set the date manually inside of DOSBox. So going forward, November was like, okay, we're at the very end. We got to hurry up and get this game done. So we were all doing final polish work on it. So a lot got done. The first Ipx Multiplayer in the game was created, like a fast shooter game. The word deathmatch is created. Came up with that just while I was thinking about what kind of mode that would be. We put co-op in there because it just seemed obvious that you'd want to go through the game together with friends. We finished all of the extra 10% of the game that it takes to really make it feel polished. And then we got modems working, and all the game maps were modified to handle all the game modes that we had with all the difficulty levels and everything. So it was really just tons of polish at the very, very end. And we were spending more and more time at the office. The Usenet was going crazy because everybody knew the game was coming out for a whole year, so they were inventing all kinds of stories and new games based off of cheat codes that we had, and it was actually the internet created some cheat codes, so it was just like really furious at the very end. That last November, December was pretty crazy. And then basically that was December 10th is the day that we are putting the game up on the net. We had a 30-hour stretch at the very end of no sleep, 30 hours, everybody just running the game on every machine. We had a last-minute bug that was like, it was a really crazy bug that only if you knew everything about the technology would you know how to debug. But basically, the game runs on a timer, so even in the future with 50 gigahertz processors, this game will always run at the correct speed. But in doing that, using the timer at a low level, interrupt level, basically if the timer starts at some crazy random value when the game starts, there's a possibility that it could hit 0, and at that point the game just locks up. So we sometimes saw the game running on a bunch of machines and would just randomly lock up for no reason at all. And only Carmack could figure out that it was the timer code that was wrapping when that happened. So fix that bug, and then it never, that was just like during that last time fixing that bug, and it was the last thing that we had in the game.
Kind of like the final value is 0 equals 0, so we're done and it stops.
Doom is uploaded to my college computers, University of Wisconsin.
Upload the game to the college, University of Wisconsin's FTP server, and everyone was waiting for it. So we had to
FTP for file
we had to try and get
sharing.
in there, get a slot in there to do an upload, which is what we did. And so we were using a modem and putting the game up, and
totally couldn't hear.
And it blew up the whole server. And then we had to get on the phone with the sysop of the FTP server, and then we had to have him kick everybody off, and then we had to slot in again because we had hundreds of people trying to get onto the server to get the game, and we couldn't even get the game up on the server because there were
so
sitting
many
there.
people. Yeah.
And then it blew up again. So the second time the game blew up, and then basically had to tell him to just lock everybody off so we could just upload it. And so he did that.
And now Bucky's happy.
And then the game was uploaded to the world and made its way across all the BBSs, and everybody knows the rest of the story. We went on to make Doom 2 and Quake.
And weirdly, level 10 of Doom 2 was mine.
We kept some of Tom's levels.
I actually got it and was
them.
just playing, and it was like, what the diamonds? What that? It was a funny moment.
Yep. So that's it. That's the story of how we made Doom.
That was excellent.
Thanks, everyone.
Now, I think we're going to have a Q&A after, question and answer with them.
We can do
Well,
questions.
first of all, I would like it to. This is an odd job, and really like to thank everybody that gets the games and downloads them, because you're just kind of sitting in a room doing this thing because you like to play it. It's like I want to play that thing. And then all of a sudden, oh, this is really great. It's like, okay, nice to meet you. I don't know how this happened, but it's kind of cool.
So questions? Anybody has questions? It'd be great to hit a microphone so everyone can hear it.
So to me, one of the sort of most interesting dynamics in Doom was the variety and sort of enemy attacks, and just sort of the timings of them and so on. I was curious as to kind of where along the process, or how much, did they come out the way you'd planned, or was there a lot of change throughout in terms of fireball speeds and enemy run speeds and shotgun timing and whatnot?
Oh, what a great question.
Yeah, everything in the game was totally iterated on heavily. We had we made really best first guesses. The game frame rate, the rendering rate was locked at 35 frames a second, even though it could probably go 70. We made it 35, so the rest of the game would run evenly on more systems, and that and we ran the internal AI at 10 frames a second, so we would have a good speed for the enemies. We don't want them coming too fast because it's just not very fair or fun. So we put first guess values in for everything: the damage, how the damage scales on weapons, the weapon firing rates, how much per second damage that could possibly be, to try and perfectly balance all the weapons. So what you were having to decide was, if something's really far away, you want to use not the shotgun, and if something is big, you want to use the rocket launcher, and stuff that's really far away, use the pistol or the chain gun. So we did a ton of balancing on that to try and kind of even out the damages and the times that they would fire, and I'd have to say it just felt perfect. Even years later when we played deathmatch in other games and come back to it, we got really lucky balancing all the damage.
Thank you.
I can't see you over there. I guess there's a hand over there.
Hi there. So now that the game has been finished for a while and ported for a lot of systems, do you guys go back and think that there was any element that you want to change? And also, which port do you think is the best and the best representation of the game?
I don't have anything that I want to change other than I would go over the levels probably and just do some more polish on the levels. But they feel great, and I think the game is. I really don't have any I don't look back at it and go, oh man, that was really messed up. Like with Quake, there was some damages with the rocket launcher I would probably change, but with Doom, it just seemed right. I guess I got one more
minute.
question.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Carlos. First of all, thanks for coming. I recently read Masters of Doom, and it reminded me of kind of like when I was growing up, like the image that people had of John Romero, like someone that was very excited, very passionate about what he was doing. One of the things that I thought about was how you guys always wanted to make like the best games around you. You wanted to compete with the greatest, and you wanted to break new ground, and make use like Carmack's technology and apply it in design in ways that nobody had seen before. And you then, when you disagree with, I think I saw a YouTube interview with Matt Chat.
Matt Chat, yeah.
Yeah, where you say you disagree with some of the decisions that were made in Quake, and you ended up, doing your own thing, and you still wanted to, make your own, great first-person shooter and your vision of it.
Right.
So as a creator, what made you transition from, that passion towards, say, AAA games, towards a different focus now towards the, say, social space?
Well, I played deathmatch like constantly for years and love deathmatch. Deathmatch is like one of the most fun ways to play a game for me. But nowadays, going into the latest games, they don't feel the same way. I feel like I'm going slower through the world, and I really like the Doom and Quake speeds of player run. It felt like they're more skill based than than just like aiming at somebody with a railgun. Not as much fun for me. And as a designer, it's way more challenging to make a game that hundreds of millions of people will like say social games. It's much more of a challenge to try and get back to what the roots of what's fun, and to make it palatable to way more people. So I still have some really great ideas for some shooters that I'd like to make, but right now, we've both moved through a lot of different kinds of designs in our careers, and it's fun to touch a lot of different areas.
Well, I think John's genius is seeing the next thing, and perhaps the timing's been off occasionally, but when Carmack and I made a joke first level of Super Mario and left it on John's desk, he closed the door when we came in after crashing and stuff, and he says, "We are out of here." He knew it. They said, "This is it. We're out of here." Boom! This is a success.
The scrolling.
And yeah, with the tile scrolling stuff. And when we did Milestone together, it's like it was a very early cell thing. The cell carriers didn't really have it together as far as games, but that's the biggest thing now is mobile games and stuff. So it's brilliant, a little early on that one, and now it's striking the forefront again with social games and sharing it with Brenda, the brilliant Brenda.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think that's it for questions, because we have to run to another talk.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, that was really, really good. That was excellent. Cool. All right, thank you so much for sticking around with the stream here. That was really good. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing a series of these with the gaming conference streams and whatnot, and how the people back in the day, and even current day streams of how their minds are at, their mindsets and their innovations and the struggles, and how they were able to win at making games and creating environments. All right, thank you so much. I'm Titan the Great Dane, and we'll see you again. I'll probably be changing my schedule around. I've been doing a lot of these in the mornings. I think I might shift these around into the evenings, just to see how interaction goes and whatnot. And because everything went really, really well when I was playing the retro games, but we want to learn about the people that are making the retro games too, and while we're in development, so people will be able to understand and learn from our story for when we get things released as well too. All right, thank you very much. I'm Titan the Great Dane, and have a great time.